Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Store employee wouldn't give me my items because I don't have the same last name as my husband. After that, my entitled mother just can't seem to figure out why she can't keep a babysitter. And after that, the time I employed the Worcester Sheriff to bring the Worcester Police to court. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen gets stung by a wasp. Sometimes you really take these too far, Reddit boy. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Store employee wouldn't give me my items because I don't have the same last name as my husband. My husband, Will Williams, for the purpose of this story, has a store card for a big box store that sells DIY stuff. I am an authorized user on the card. Even though we've been married 3 years, I didn't take his name. This has never been an issue before today. Will had surgery 2 days ago and decided this morning that he wanted to do some projects around the house while he's stuck at home recovering. So he purchased about $250 worth of stuff from the DIY store online and asked that I pick up the items because he can't drive yet. I drive to the DIY store, head to the pickup counter, and show the email and my license when asked. The woman looks at me and says, "You aren't Will Williams?" I explained that no, I am Will's wife, Flamingo Lemon. I'm here to pick up the order. I confirm Will's email address and phone number. According to her, I can't be Will Williams' wife because my last name isn't Williams, it's Lemon, and therefore I'm committing fraud. I showed her on my license that the address listed is the same as the address on the account. Nope, doesn't matter. Since our last names don't match, I'm committing fraud. Will has to pick up his own items. I explained that Will had surgery and has a cast on his leg, which is why he isn't able to pick up the items. I state that I am an authorized user on the card and that the email address Will put in when he placed is one I know. I've had zero issues picking up stuff for him before. She starts trying to bend my license in half and I pull it out of her hand. I tell her this is ridiculous and ask when she gets off work so I can speak with someone who understands that people can be married and share a card and have a different last name. Then I walk away. As I'm leaving, she's yelling to me that I'm committing fraud, so the whole staff hears. I did yell back that I'm not, and I don't know what your problem is, and I walked out. But I'm fuming right now. Will is also upset, because now I have to drag him and his sore, casted leg back to the DIY store to get our stuff. I really want to call the manager and complain. Yes, it's a Karen move, especially with her trying to destroy my license. But I worry if I do, we will never see our stuff. Am I the jerk here? Edit. I went back to the store with my husband's license and a note from him saying I could pick up the order. Left Will in the recliner. We looked all over the DIY store's app and website to see if there was a way to authorize a different pickup person, but couldn't figure it out, especially since my info was already on the order. I got the order through their drive-up and they didn't check any licenses, especially after all that BS. I called the store number once I got home and spoke with the manager. They apologized for the employee and offered me a $5 account credit. $5? They better give you a little something more after all that crap. My entitled mother just can't figure out why she can't keep a babysitter. This was a few years ago. My mom was in her late 30s. Babysitter, May, was about 15 or 16. My sister, Eva, was 11. I was 19. Names have been changed for privacy. My mom is a single parent and has been for over a decade now. She lives in her late father's house, which she does not own, but no one in our family wanted her and my sister to be homeless. All of her bills, water, gas, electric, and sometimes groceries when she forgets to renew SNAP benefits, were paid by her grandma. My mom had a job at a local gas station. Her shift started at 3 a.m. and she wanted my sister's babysitter to show up at 2 to 2:30 a.m. My mom had problems paying the babysitter on time, and 1 week just didn't pay her at all. May told my mom that if she didn't pay her this time, she wasn't going to come back next week. My mom basically told her she was going to come back whether she was paid or not, because Eva and my mom needed her. So my mom didn't pay her, and May didn't show up the next Saturday. My mom refused to go into work for the whole weekend and started calling May to tell her that May owed her money for making her miss work. She says that she owed May $40, but by missing work on Saturday, she missed out on making $80 on her check. She wanted May to pay her $80, but since she owed May money, My mom wanted to be nice by only asking for 40 and not making her pay for Sunday too. May refused to come back and babysit ever again and told other babysitters to avoid working for my mom. Around this time, I came back from my first year in college and was looking for a place to live until I found an apartment. My mom offered to let me live with her until I found a place, on the condition that I was always available to watch my sister when she needed me. I agreed and moved in. I also worked and paid for groceries while saving money for when I moved out. She had been moved to the late afternoon shift because she wasn't showing up for the morning shift. Her shift started at 2 p.m. and I clocked out of my job at noon. We didn't have a car, so we walked everywhere. Her walk to work was 15 minutes and mine was about 10 minutes. One day we had a meeting at work and it ran late. I clocked out at 12:10. As I walked outside, I pulled out my phone to call my mom and tell her I just left work and would be at home soon, but I found a voicemail from my mom that she left at like 12:02 telling me that I was irresponsible and inconsiderate, and if I couldn't call her when I was on my way home, then I could live somewhere else. By the time the voicemail ended, I was walking up the driveway and my mom and sister were outside watering plants. I told her why I was late and she told me not to listen to the voicemail she had left and delete it. A month or two later, I found a place to rent with 2 roommates. I told my mom I was moving 2 weeks before we were set to move in so she could work on finding a babysitter. She told me that she would work on it, but if she didn't find one, she expected me to still come back to her house and watch my sister every day. She also still wanted me to pay for groceries after I moved out. After 2 weeks, she still hadn't found a babysitter, so I continued to watch my sister after I moved for about a week and a half. I was working from 3 a.m. to noon, then going to my mom's house and taking care of my sister and the house until my mom came home around midnight when her shift ended at 9. Then I would go to my place, get maybe 2 hours of sleep, and have to be up for work again. I told my mom I wasn't going to do it anymore, reminded her that she started leaving me and our brother alone when we were 5 and 6, and that Eva really didn't need a babysitter at 11. She had a breakdown, told me it was my fault if she lost her job and Eva got taken away from her. She stopped going to work and got fired. It has been 4 years, and only recently she started working again about 3 months ago. The time I employed the Worcester Sheriff to bring the Worcester Police to court. Years ago, I got a speeding ticket in Worcester, Massachusetts. It was a typical speed trap where they sit at the bottom of a steep hill, knowing that lots of people will exceed the very low speed limit because gravity. It was BS, so I decided to fight it and at least make them work for their $100 fine. I read everything I could on fighting radar tickets, and one strategy was to check whether the police department had proper FCC documents on their radar used. If they don't, the radar info is inadmissible and you probably will win your case. I went to the Worcester police station and found the records department down in the basement. I showed them the ticket and explained that I wanted to view the paperwork for the radar that was used to record my speed. I had to wait a couple minutes, but some official came out and sternly informed me that civilians don't have access to that information. Cue malicious compliance. I asked a few people how you request records for a court case, and it turns out that, at least in Massachusetts, that's one of the things the sheriff's office does. So I went to them, paid them $50, I know, on a $100 ticket, but I've always enjoyed tilting at windmills, and described the documents I required. I have to admit that by the time I had to go to court, I had kind of forgotten about the sheriff's department, but I did notice this police officer sitting in the audience section with all the other people fighting tickets. This guy wasn't your typical police officer though. He was wearing a very fancy uniform and his hat had all kinds of gold braid on it. He did not look happy. Traffic court being traffic court, it's all kinds of disorganized, with a bunch of citizens sitting around waiting for things to start, and of course the proceedings plod along at a snail's pace. Finally, my name is called after about a half an hour, and this police officer comes over to me and explains that he is the captain or lieutenant, I forget now, in charge of the entire records division for the Worcester Police, and he has the radar records in his hand for me to examine. So I look it over, and it seems to all be in order, so I thank him. He's visibly angry about having to spend his morning sitting in traffic court over a $100 citation. Totally worth the $50. To this day, I don't know whether someone at the sheriff's department was just messing with the police department by naming the top guy in the records request, but I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Don't want to let the citizens see your records? Fine. I would have loved to have been there when the sheriff's department showed up to serve the head guy with a court order. Oh, by the way, I lost the case. Am I the jerk for walking out in the middle of my boyfriend's birthday party? I, female 25, have been with my boyfriend, who's 28, for 3 years. Our relationship is great and we rarely fight. His birthday was a few days ago and I wanted to do something together, but his parents already decided to host the party at their house. My boyfriend got there first. I showed up after I got off work and he was there with the guests, busy talking and greeting in the backyard. I took a seat in the back and his sister showed up with her husband and son, Jake. We're not on good terms, by the way. She said hi, then asked if I could watch her son, Jake. I was like, but she disappeared and left her kid with me before I could even answer, so I decided to just keep an eye on him until she gets back since he was sitting across from me. I spilled my drink on my top, which was messy. I gave Jake my phone to play on it and asked him to sit still till I get back, then I went to use the bathroom to clean up the stain. Clearly, Jake walked towards the pool and the floor was slippery, so he slipped and fell and injured his knee. That's when I heard loud noise coming from outside, like people panicking. I went to see what was going on and saw my boyfriend and his family with Jake. I heard my boyfriend's dad ask who was supposed to watch Jake, and his sister said my name. My boyfriend saw me and shouted, "OP, where the heck have you been? How could you have let this happen?" I was taken aback. I said I was in the bathroom cleaning up the stain. He asked, "Is the stain more important than my nephew?" I explained that his family or his mother should have kept an eye on him. He said there are many guests, so they probably didn't notice, and said I should stop turning this around on his family since I agreed to watch Jake. I said no, I did not initially agree to watch Jake and came to the party as a guest, not a babysitter, and that his sister just dumped him on me and disappeared without even waiting to hear if I was going to say no. We had an argument, and I got fed up, being presented with hypothetical scenarios of what could have happened if Jake fell into the pool and was blamed to no end, so I grabbed my stuff and walked out. My boyfriend's parents saw me leave and he followed me, asking me to wait and return, but I refused. He said I have no reason to be upset, but more reason to be worried, just like they all were, and insisted I go back inside, but I got in my car and left. He came back later looking upset. He said that yes, while it might be his sister's fault for still bringing her son after he stated he didn't want kids there because of the pool, but said I ruined the party by walking out and refusing to take responsibility and admitting I should have made sure Jake was safe before leaving him out of my sight, whether I agreed to watch him or not. He said his parents are rightfully upset and didn't appreciate my behavior earlier on, then walking out, which hurt him on a personal level since it's his birthday and it should mean something to me. I felt like he might be right and mishandled this entire situation. Am I the jerk? Jake is 4. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or everyone else? Please let us know. I think everyone kind of sucks here, to be honest. I'll have the gluten-free bread. Don't worry, you don't have to change your gloves. Back during my college days, I worked on the on-campus dining hall as a student worker. We got assigned to various positions there for that particular shift. I liked working at the deli corner. I had fun talking to my coworker and talking to the customers as I made their sandwiches. It was fun. At the deli corner, the dining hall actually had special gluten-free breads and options for those that wanted a sandwich, but obviously couldn't have the normal bread options. In this case, I would need to wash my hands very thoroughly and change my gloves before proceeding with the order. This was to protect those that needed to have gluten-free options. Everything was fine and dandy for a very long while. But then, a new health craze began to catch on quickly. Gluten-free was healthier. Instead of getting 3 people per shift asking for gluten-free options, I would now get maybe 15 to 20 people per shift. The malicious compliance, I couldn't ask people about whether they needed gluten-free or were doing it because they could. But without fail, whenever someone mentioned that they wanted the gluten-free option, I immediately went to wash my hands and take up precious time that they had for their meal, overall about 1 to 2 extra minutes. The people stood there confused for the first couple of times this happened, and they didn't like it. When they realized what was happening, they would make their order and then state they didn't need me to change my gloves. I could just make their sandwich. Upon hearing this, I smiled and informed the person exactly why I needed to wash my hands and change my gloves, and then go through with it. I took up more of their precious time than before. Ultimately, no one ever yelled at me nor got me in trouble. After all, I was following protocol. They would just sigh and look down in defeat and continue with their order. I know this isn't the most malicious compliance out there, but I did take great joy in following this protocol. Edit, just to clarify and reiterate what some people have already said in the comments below. The issue was that of cross-contamination. Sure, the people who wanted the gluten-free bread and gave me permission to not wash my hands and change my gloves were not considering those who couldn't eat gluten at all in any amount. The gluten-free stash of deli materials were meant to be separate, and we could guarantee that no traces of gluten were there because of our diligence. My washing of my hands and changing of my gloves weren't for the benefit of those who chose the gluten-free option, it was for the benefits of those who needed gluten-free options. Am I the jerk for mimicking my brother's tantrums to prove my parents treat us differently? My brother is 14 and I'm 15. It's always been really obvious to me that he's the favorite kid, and my parents treat him differently than me. His room is twice the size of mine. He gets money to go out with his friends and eat, but if I want to go out, I have to use money I saved for my birthday or Christmas, or when grandma visits. I get in trouble for things he doesn't get in trouble for. There's higher expectations on me. If my parents need help with something, it's always me they ask, not him. Stuff like that. I've been trying to explain to them that we get treated differently and they don't agree. They think it's just in my head. I would give them examples, like how my brother is always really grumpy and barely speaks to them. But if I'm in a bad mood and barely speak to them for one day, I get in trouble. But they said it's different and got annoyed when I tried to get them to explain why. My brother has been doing this thing lately where he gets annoyed about something. I think it's when he loses in a video game, or his game freezes or something, but I'm not sure because it's always in his room. And he starts yelling and slamming his hand on his desk. Then he stomps around the house slamming doors for like an hour. This happens maybe once a week. It scares my cat, and honestly it scares me too. But my parents just ignore it. He did it yesterday while I was holding the cat, and my arms got shredded because the cat got panicked. I asked my mom if she's going to talk to him about his outbursts, and she said I should just ignore it and he'll grow out of it. So today, I decided I'd test out what happens if I do the exact same thing as him. I waited until the cat was in the other end of the house so I didn't scare him, and I yelled and thumped my hand on my desk. I didn't even get to do anything else, like slamming doors, because my mom got so angry right away and burst into my room and started yelling at me. When she took a breath, I said, "Okay, so now that you've practiced with me, you can tell my brother off next time he does it, right?" And she got even more mad and said I need to grow up and stop focusing on my brother so much, and I should just focus on myself because it's up to my parents to decide how to deal with our behavior, not me. So now I'm grounded for doing this, but my brother does that and then slams doors and stomps around the house like once a week and has never even been told to stop. And still, my parents won't admit they treat us differently. My dad even came in later to tell me off all over again for copying my brother just to prove a point, but wouldn't acknowledge I did actually make my point. He just kept saying I was being immature. Am I the jerk? ETA. I think a lot of people are reading too much into this, maybe based on their own experiences and assumptions. My parents are totally fine to be around, except for the fact that they're strict when they think I'm out of line, but not with my brother. We get along fine every other time. Just because they're hypocrites doesn't mean they're psychos. My brother has just recently started these anger issues, and my parents haven't bothered to do anything about it. He's not even completely dependent on them. Like, he cooks his own meals and cleans his own room and does chores just like me. He just gets extra money and a bigger room and doesn't get called out when he's being crappy. Don't be a jerk to your teenager's potential employer. A few years ago, I worked as a sales manager for 3 stores. I had approximately 50 sales team members over the 3 stores, and I did everything from interviewing, hiring, inducting, training, rostering, etc. One time, we were hiring juniors for after-school shifts. The franchisee arranged some interviews that he had arranged online, and I scheduled those that were walk-ins. Interviews were scheduled in 15-minute intervals, but we had both scheduled a 4 p.m. interview. No biggie. At some time between 3:55 p.m. and 4, the supervisor interrupts me just before an interview ended. She got this weird look on her face. "Ah, there's a lady here. She wants to talk to you now because her daughter has an interview at 4. I finish the interview and go out to the front to find Mumzilla, one hand on her hip and the other holding her phone adjacent to her ear, glaring at me. "Hi, can I help you?" I ask, kinda curiously. "Hi, my daughter has an interview at 4 p.m. Still a few minutes away. Scheduled by the franchisee. We've been here since 3:30. And now we find out there's another girl here. What is going on? I explained that yes, the boss and I had overlapped at 4 p.m. I was aware, and that it wasn't a big deal. Her tone changed immediately. Oh, okay. Well, should I send my daughter over? Whoever was here first. Well, we've been here since 3:30, she snaps. Well then, send her in. When she came for the interview, I made sure I circled her name. Everyone else who attended got a tick. Those who didn't show got an X. This girl had her name circled so I would not forget. She interviewed really well, but truth be told, she had already failed. I couldn't risk having her mother hovering throughout her employment. At the end, I said, if you're a successful applicant, I will contact you Monday evening. I won't be contacting unsuccessful applicants, but there's too many candidates. I told my franchisee about the situation. At about 9:15 p.m. Monday, the franchisee forwards me an email stating simply, "Is this the girl with the mum?" The original email is from the girl's account. Dear OP, due to management error, I was not on the list of interviews. I did eventually receive an interview, and I was assured I would be informed this afternoon whether I had the position or not. It's now 7:58 p.m., and I have not heard from your company. Is this because I did not get the job, or because once again I have been neglected? I told the franchisee they weren't forgotten or neglected, so we drafted a reply on his behalf. Dear applicant, I can assure you that you were on the list of interviewees as I finalized the list. The manager informed you that she would be contacting successful candidates only. Unfortunately, you and your mother were unsuccessful during this recruitment process. Best wishes for future endeavors. The boss and I agreed that it sounded like the mum wrote the email and that I had dodged a bullet. Edit. This was a highly affluent suburb, full of entitlement. When the bridezilla is actually the mom. So the hotel I work for is a popular wedding destination, so I've dealt with more than my fair share of certified bridezillas. From early check-ins to transportation stress to the crazy relatives, I like to think I've just about seen it all. But have y'all ever encountered a bridezilla who's not a bride at all and most likely hasn't been for a decade? For additional background, our hotel also boasts a fairly popular spa on our second floor, and today I get a call from them about room availability for next Sunday. An odd request coming from the spa, but I comply because I know a lot of people will come down and ask me about rates after an appointment. I let my spa receptionist know we have exactly one more suite available for next weekend and to send down the people who want to book it so that they can secure our last one. She then asks me if the suite across from the spa specifically will be open, and I let her know I have no way of knowing, but we can request that room for the guest on the reservation. No, she's insisting it has to be that exact room. I implore the spa receptionist to try explaining how requests work and to send them down to me. I can already tell this is going to be a pain in the butt. About 30 minutes later, an older-ish lady comes down with her embarrassed daughter in tow. At the spa, they're saying we can't have room X number. Why? I explain we can still book her our last suite for that weekend, but we can't guarantee that exact room if it's requested. We go back and forth on what the word request means for a minute while the daughter looks so uncomfortable. She tries to soften me up by telling me her daughter is getting married here next weekend and they already have a suite. Why she didn't lead with that is beyond me, but I still told her it's only a request. I put the note in the existing reservation and that seemed to satisfy her for now. But as we all know in this industry, it's never that easy. Mother of the bride then asks me where our pool tables went. I explained we've converted the area into our breakfast nook to enforce social distancing here because of what's going on. Her response to that was a condescending, "Oh, is that why they're still forcing you to wear that mask?" Not that it's any of her business, but I tell her I wear it on my own accord and ask her if I can help her with anything else. Mumzilla then asks if we could get the pool tables uncovered for wedding pictures while her daughter puts her face in her hands. Now, I don't know what she was expecting me to say, but this next part of the interaction gave me a migraine. Me. I can't say. I'd call back in the morning if I were you and either ask our GM or our events manager since I just work front desk. Mumzilla. Okay, so the floor coordinator you said? They'll know? Me. No, either our general manager or our events manager, which is the same person who helped you book the rooms. But not the floor coordinator though? Why can't they help us? Finally, her daughter, the voice of reason, chimes in. No, Mom, she said a manager. She never even said the word coordinate. Turning to me. "Do you have a business card with your GM's name so she can ask, please?" I hand her the card and she thanks me and tells her mom she's got somewhere to be. As someone who has had the same brand of mom, I see in her eyes that's total BS just to get her home. I tell the bride-to-be congratulations and dread seeing her mom again next weekend. Am I the jerk for telling my fiancé to cook his own meals? I'm 26, female, and my fiancé, 29, male, is a bottomless pit. I can make 5 pounds of food and it'll be gone in 2 meals. I'm trying to be healthy and lose weight, so I've decided that I'm going to cook throughout the week to limit the frozen meals and fast food. But I'll have to cook every day just to make sure there's enough food for lunch the next day between the two of us. I work a full-time job, and honestly, this sounds exhausting to work 9 to 10 hours a day and then come home and cook what amounts to a 3-course meal every night. I asked my fiancé if he could take on some of the cooking, but the most he's willing to do is help Tuesday and Thursday. His help is also limited because his ADHD makes sequential tasks, like recipes, hard for him. He says we can supplement the missing food with takeout, which is exactly what I'm trying to avoid. I told him this, and his response was, "Then cook every night." I told him that that's fine, but then he'll have to find and cook his own food so that I have enough to get through 1 or 2 days of work lunches without spending hours cooking huge amounts of food. He got upset, asking why I can't just make extra, and I told him I can't be making 3 times a recipe every night. It's too much work, and he doesn't understand how much harder it is to cook with massive quantities. He also doesn't like some of the types of protein I do, so I would need to cook slightly special for him. Now he's upset with me, saying his help twice a week should be more than enough, and that it's not a big deal to start slow and eat takeout once or twice. He also says it's unfair to expect him to suddenly cook multiple times a week given his disability. Not saying ADHD isn't a challenge, just that I feel he uses it as a reason to not try to work on something. Just say it's impossible and move on. I'm tired of making resolutions to be healthy only to quit because I can't keep up with it, and a big part of that is because I'm taking care of 2 people alone. I also feel bad though, because I don't want him to suffer, and maybe it's not that big of a deal to just make more of what I'm already cooking or start slow and eat takeout occasionally. So, am I the jerk? My ex, Karen, lied about me on social media. I got revenge. So, background info. I dated the same girl since I was a senior in high school to my 2nd year of university. We are both the same age. We broke up plenty of times and got back together, but she officially broke up with me for the last time in my 2nd year of uni. It's been 2 years since then, and I'm in 4th year. I still care about her dearly, to be deathly honest, and she knows it. She has made countless YouTube videos with her friends talking about embarrassing things about our relationship, but giving me an alias so that people don't know who she's talking about, or has made these cryptic tweets about me that I can clearly tell are about me. But when I message her to take it down or delete it, she says it has nothing to do with me. I'm acting like a weirdo and that I need to leave her alone. Honestly, for a while, I thought maybe I was just going crazy or just blinded by the fact that I still cared about her, and that she really isn't thinking about me, and it's just my own self-pity that is making me think that she's doing these things to get a rise out of me. I told my friends about this, and they told me that people are starting to read it as if I'm not over her and that I'm deluded and it's starting to get stalkerish. I listened to their advice because it's depressing enough as it is and tried to move on with my life. A year went by, and one day my sister told me that she had gotten a follow request on Instagram from my ex. I left it alone and didn't make a big deal out of it. Probably at like 3 a.m., I got 2 notifications that said I had got a message from her and she had tagged me and my sister in her recent post. I thought I was dreaming, so I closed my phone and went to bed. I checked my phone the next morning and the notification was still there. So I screenshotted it and clicked on it for evidence, just in case, I told myself. I clicked on the notification, but she must have deleted it because it sent me to the Instagram equivalent of like a 404 error page. I asked her why she tagged me and my sister, and she went off on me, telling me that it's been 2 years since we broke up and that I've become a stalker or something to that degree. She posted our conversation on Twitter and cut out my name. She made a bunch of tweets like, "Seriously, you need to leave me alone," and stuff like that. I was getting messages from mutual friends that I'm losing my mind and need to see a therapist. That was the last straw for me. I posted the screenshots of the notifications, then took screenshots of every cryptic tweet I felt was about me and explained why. And I called her a jerk because she knows exactly what she's doing and it's evil. I was very satisfied with myself because it seems that a lot of people are a lot more understanding of me. But there are also a lot of people who are telling me what I did was extremely mean and out of spite. I don't know, she honestly made me feel like a psychopath, and it just feels like this was the right thing to do. Am I the jerk? Am I the jerk for not participating in Christmas activities with my wife and kids? My wife has always been more into holidays than me because she didn't have much of a family and they were dysfunctional. I grew up in a huge family and have already experienced as many big Christmases as I need. It wasn't a big deal, but since we have kids, ages 2, 5, and 12, she is obsessed with making it special. Over the years, she started a lot of new traditions that include decorating the tree and a bookshelf with the kids. She knows that I don't like to bother with any of that. I mean, I let her do it, but I don't want to be involved since weekends are my only days off and that's just unnecessary work. The thing is, she keeps asking me if I want to help, or go with them to see lights, which takes forever, or do gingerbread houses. I could not have been clearer. So today, when she put up the tree, I just avoided all of that by staying in the bedroom with the door closed. She says that I'm the jerk for refusing to participate and that I'm acting like I have holiday-related trauma, when really it's the weekend, it's my time, and I just want to relax. I don't see what the big deal is. I get that she's trying to give the kids what she didn't have, but it's not my fault that she had a hard childhood. It seems like something she needs to get over instead of trying to play catch-up. Wife wants to make a big deal out of Christmas when I just want a break. Am I the jerk for wanting to scale back? Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
You're a mean one, Mr. OP. Seriously though, who crapped in this guy's eggnog?
Come watch this video next. YouTube is recommending it specifically for you based on other videos that you watch.